So what we're going to look at today is mindfulness of pain, physical pain and mental pain. We're going to look into what that means, techniques to do that, and how to actually work with it and learn to relax it. If you do this practice diligently, you can actually remove the pain from pain, or the suffering from pain, should I say. Pain is a common visitor in life and also in our meditation practice, because meditation isn't separate from life. It can't be separated. If we try to separate our meditation practice from our everyday life, right, it might have the effect of just calming us down a bit. But what it's going to do is it's not going to change the way we live our life. And it's not going to change by any high degree the happiness we have in life. It becomes more something that we need to top up so we can bring that tranquility into life. The way to change our relationship to life is just that. We need to change the relationship to it, not just bring something into it. And that's how we learn to deal with pain. Now, life is a flow of pleasant and unpleasant experiences. Yeah? Sometimes we have pleasant experiences. Sometimes we have unpleasant experiences. When we have pleasant experiences, we want them to stay. We want to experience them again and again. When we have unpleasant experiences, we want them to go away so we can experience pleasant things. Seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? If we don't want to experience something that's happening now, something that's uncomfortable, the very act of not wanting to experience it is creating a resistance to life. That resistance causes dukkha, right? The friction, right, that comes when we actually become disjointed with life. The pain that comes from that. The pain of having something happening in a way that we don't want it to. If we want to experience pleasant experiences and we start chasing after them, the very act of not having something here and wanting to experience a pleasant experience is causing dukkha. Because we're saying we don't want this, we want that. So again, we're guaranteeing that we're going to experience pain instead of experience pleasure. If life throws some sort of pleasure up for us, some sort of pleasant experience, if we hang on to that, the fear that comes that that pleasant experience will end, which it will, causes dukkha. It causes pain. And so then we cycle back into pain again. We can't even enjoy that pleasant experience because we've got a fear that it's going to go. So if your relationship is going really well, the first thing that comes up is fear that something might go wrong. So we get over attentive with it and we start struggling with it and start looking for a fault within it that we can try to fix. But the very act of doing that causes the relationship to start to fall apart. Yeah? So this is clinging, which is the first hindrance, right? And pushing away or finding fault in, which is the second hindrance. So how do we get free from this? So looking at it in this way, we can start to understand that pain is actually a relationship to things. Let's just look at physical pain. When we feel physical pain, say I have some painful sensations in my body, okay? If I take a painkiller, what the painkiller is doing is not killing pain. Painkillers do not remove pain. What painkillers do is they remove the object from the mind. So if there's sensations in my body and they feel unpleasant and I don't like them being there, what the painkillers do is remove my ability to experience those sensations. Right? But the sensations themselves are not pain. We do not feel pain in our body. Our body does not feel pain. If a doctor wanted to operate on you, they'd put you under general anaesthetic, right? They'd make you unconscious, which means your mind is no longer active. They can do anything they want to your body. The nervous system in the body is still functioning, right? But you are not conscious of those signals going along the nervous system, right? So pain is a mental relationship to something or to an object. In this case, if we have sensations in our body and they feel unpleasant, pain is our aversion to the unpleasant feeling in the sensations. It's our relationship to it. Now, the interesting thing about physical pain is we can actually change our relationship to it. Now, you can see people do this. Different people have different pain tolerances. Some people can even be put on very high painkillers, right? So they can no longer feel their body, but they're still suffering the pain because their mind is still engaged or still dreams, is believing that it's engaged with the sensations. So they'll still scream in pain no matter how much morphine you pump into them, right? But they can't actually feel their body anymore. They can't feel it because it's a relationship to. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. So when dealing with pain in our body, what we've got to be interested in is how are we relating to that? And that's what we'll be looking at. That's where mindfulness comes in. And this is the same with mental pain as well. We're experiencing an emotion or a thought process that we don't like, right? What happens is we start to resist that. That resistance causes dukkha. Dukkha causes suffering. That friction from becoming disjointed, that friction from having something there that we don't want to be there, that is there. So what meditation practice is teaching us that we have no control over what's there. Have you noticed that when you're meditating? Every time you come here and sit down to meditate, is it always exactly the same or is it different? You don't know what you're going to get. Isn't it exciting? It's like a mystery box. You don't know what you're going to get. And you kind of go, oh, but I'm doing exactly the same as before. And then I was really tranquil before and now suddenly it's just chaotic and dull and I'm really restless. What's going on? Must be doing something wrong. Maybe I'll go do something different. That very trying to do something is what's causing this to happen. What we experience right now is dependent on past conditions. How we've related to something in the past has planted seeds. How we're relating to whatever's here right now is ripening those seeds. Yeah? There's many possibilities. This is why we've got to be careful what we think, say and do in the past, because we're creating the potential of what we're going to experience now. So you'll find it changes all the time. So whatever we're experiencing in this moment, see this moment now with its sounds, with its sensations and everything is fixed. It's already here. We cannot change it. So if we try to resist what's here at the moment, that resistance is causing, right, pain in the future or potential for pain in the future. That resistance, I don't like this, is conditioning the next moment to contain aversion to what's happening. And on it goes. Right? So let's look at what types of pain there are. So we can basically, through meditation, you'll start to notice you can categorize pain as 3 types of pain. And the first one doesn't actually really exist. The first type of pain is physical pain, which is sensations in the body, and an aversive relationship to those sensations. The second type of pain is mental pain, which is usually based on obsessive thinking, right? And it's based on like and dislike, judgment, and based on emotions that are arising and how we're relating to those emotions. The last type of pain is dharma pain. And dharma pain is pain that's based on change. Pain dependent on change, but we'll actually be talking about that in the next lesson. This is a special type of pain, a pain that you can get in meditation. And it's the pain that's actually the base pain of all reality, the pain of change. So we won't talk about that today. So we'll talk about physical pain, mental pain. So how do we deal with physical pain in our meditation practice and everyday life? Because remember, what we're training here is we're training our brains so that our meditation practice is no longer sitting on a chair or a cushion. So our meditation practice is every moment of our life. How are we doing that? By learning to be mindful of our awareness of what's happening right now. All the time. Because that is what changes the relationship. So for physical pain in both seated meditation and in daily life, seated meditation is just training ground for daily life. The first thing we need to do, anybody remember what it is? Because I get you to do it every time. We need to create an anchor for our attention. Our mind needs an anchor. If we allow it to run wild, right, we'll get lost in things. So we need an anchor. So we need an anchor that is present in each moment. That's why I use the breathing. But a better anchor than the breathing is our body. The sensations in our body, it's the first domain that the Buddha gave of awareness. The first domain to cultivate mindfulness on is the body. Because the sensations in the body are always present right now. They have no past, they have no future. They're just here right now. So they anchor our attention. So if you anchor your attention in the sensations of your body at the moment, notice how present you are. Also notice when you do that, the thinking and the emotions start to settle down. The thinking may even stop when you're aware of those sensations. Quite often, it's the first time in people's lives they've ever experienced not thinking when you do that. So that's your anchor. So you hold that anchor. That's your safety in the storm. That's what anchors you, stops you from getting dragged off in emotions, stops you from getting dragged off in obsessive thinking and judgments. The next thing is to soften. So we're experiencing physical pain. We soften into that. We soften into the resistance to it. If there's pain, there's resistance. If there's no resistance, there's no pain. Right? So we've got the sensations, there's resistance to those sensations and the unpleasantness. Anchor your attention. Soften. How do you do that? With letting go meditation. Breathe in, out, relax. Breathe in, out, relax. Relax into that resistance. When you relax into the resistance will start to dissolve. What are you left with? Just sensations. Just sensations. That's all you have once the resistance is gone. The next one that you do is you start to break up those sensations. Pain is not a block. It is not a thing. It is a changing flow of sensations. In the same way, when we're looking at the breathing, we had movement, vibration, heat, tension, coolness, warmth, all those sort of things, yeah? When you look at pain and you look at it closely with your awareness, concentrate on it, it will break up into flowing sensations, swimming around like a school of fish. Movement, vibration, tension, sharpness, heat. This is what it breaks up into. When it breaks up into that, this idea of pain disappears. Because it's like taking a car. If you get a car and you break it up into its component parts, you see a bolt, you see a nut, right? You see a wire, you see a mirror, you see a steering wheel, you no longer see a car. If you break the pain up into these sensations, you just see flowing sensations. Now the next stage here is to notice the unpleasantness feeling in those sensations. Keep mindful of that. From that unpleasantness, more resistance will start to arise because it's a habitual way of relating to those sensations. As soon as you start to feel that resistance again, use the breathing, soften into that resistance. Soften into that resistance, it will go back into sensations. If you ever get a feeling like I can't do this anymore, what's happened is you haven't noticed the resistance. You haven't noticed you're starting to mentally tense up to the sensations. Then, at that point, probably aversion and fear might have arisen. And because the thinking is coming up, I can't do this anymore, that's a sign we've already gone through that process of resistance, right? Then the aversion, fear, and the thinking is thinking about that. Be careful, that's the point you'll start to pull away. What you do then is notice the aversion, notice the mental pulling away. Soften into that, it will dissolve. Notice the resistance, soften into that. You can go back into the sensations. The interesting thing you'll find is when you soften into this resistance, remove that emotional state, it will just be sensations. And suddenly the sensations, right, they can actually die down, and people even experience them completely disappearing. The other day at a class I did on Monday morning, somebody come up to the end and said they had this hip pain that they've had for years, and they're supposed to have surgery and all this sort of thing on it. They started watching that. I got them to meditate on pain at the end of the class. She said she was watching and doing what I said and softening, and then suddenly the whole leg just relaxed and the hip dropped down, and then the pain went away. And this is what happens because our resistance actually causes our body to contract around that area, and that contraction causes more pain. Can you see? We're tensing it up. It's like having a cramp around the pain, around the sensations. And the very cramping and contracting also stops our body from healing it, because when everything is contracted, the blood can't flow and it can't heal. So it's all interrelated, the mind and body. Meditation practice is trying to teach us that it's all governed by the mind. Yeah? And you'll start to see this then when we look at mental pain. How do we deal with mental pain? Now there are different techniques for depression and for anxiety and lots of things that we can actually do extra in life. Like for depression, we can actually work on gratitude, because when we're depressed, we're actually seeing everything wrong in the world. If we start being grateful, like I actually go home and I shower under drinking water. I don't know if you do that. Do you have baths in drinking water? I do. My water's so clean. I've been in countries where I've had to run the tap for 5 minutes to get all the worms and mud out first before I can have a shower. I'm very lucky. I've got something to be grateful for. I can eat when I want to eat. Many people can't. There's billions of people in the world who can't eat when they want to eat. I have clothes. I have a bed to lay in. I have a roof over my head. Even if I didn't have much, I've got so much to be grateful for. Practice gratitude, opposite to depression. Yeah? Many mind states are like this. We can practice. I'll do in another class, I'll go over what we can practice that's opposite. For mental pain, first one, what do? Anchor our attention in our body. Boom. As soon as you do that, the thinking process that's powering the emotions, the judgments will start to die down. The emotions will die down. You'll have distance from them because you're anchored, your attention's anchored in your body. You'll be able to watch them without getting as lost in them. Now the emotion's going to be unpleasant, isn't it? We're talking about unpleasant emotions here, aren't we? So when there's an unpleasant emotion, what's the next thing that comes up? resistance. We're resisting that unpleasantness. So start using your breathing to soften into that. This will give you more space to be able to work with what's happening. Soften into the resistance. Ignore the thinking. The thinking is not your friend at this stage. Ignore it. It's obsessive thinking. It will lead to pain. It will encourage the emotion. Soften into it. When you soften in with the breathing, relax, relax, mentally relax, physically relax. The next stage is to locate where the emotion manifests in your body. Emotions always have a physical correspondence. Always. I experience fear here, swirly feelings here, around just this pit of the stomach here, right? Anxiety, constriction around the top of the throat here. It starts to constrict, and then the breathing starts to constrict. Grief around this area here. I feel with grief, I feel it deeply in here. Anger, it's like the whole body starts to heat up and expand. Depression, the whole body's cloaked in this feeling of heaviness. Somewhere there's some sort of sensations to do with the emotion. We can't feel a mental emotion without it expressing in the body. And the sensations of the body is a very easy thing to look at. It's so gross, it's not as subtle as a mind state. Then what we do is we soften into that with the breathing and then start to break it up. Oh, what's fear? Tension, swirling, movement. Yeah? Start breaking it up into its sensations. Yeah? Depression, heaviness, dullness, fogginess. Start breaking it up. When you break it up, it stops losing its meaning. At this point here, the same thing. Observe the unpleasantness. Be careful of that. At that point, resistance will arise. As soon as you feel resistance, start softening into it. If you didn't notice that resistance, then what you'll do is you'll start to get these thoughts or feeling of pulling away from it or wanting to run away. At that point, you miss the resistance and another emotional state has come up. Usually fear or aversion is coming up in the background to whatever else it is that you're experiencing. You can have these multiple emotions at the same time. It's really interesting. Yeah? At that point, find where they manifest in the body. When you do that, soften into them, they'll dissolve, go back to the original, soften, pull it apart, dissolve the resistance. So what it is it's like in letting go meditation. What we're doing is we're not trying to settle the mind and we're not trying to hold or fix our attention anywhere. What we're doing is we're turning our attention towards relaxing deeper and deeper. In the very act of doing that, we're turning our attention away from things that will actually stop our concentration from building. Yeah? As you soften and relax deeper, what happens? You are no longer participating in that pain or those sensations and your relationship to it or to the emotions. In doing that, you're starting to decondition them. So last week we talked about a fire. If we have a fire and it's got wood, it's a wood fire, it's got fuel. If I continue to put wood onto that fire, will that fire continue to burn? Yes. Will it burn hotter? Probably. But if I no longer add fuel to that fire, the fire's not going to instantly go out because there's already fuel there. But what will happen is that fire will consume that fuel, and once it consumes that fuel, it goes out. So through letting go, through relaxing into that resistance and accepting this is what's here and no longer struggling with it, we no longer feed it fuel. In no longer feeding it fuel, the fuel that has already been added to that emotion, added to that resistance, added to that relationship to pain, will continue to burn for a while. But if we no longer add fuel by reacting to it, it starts to get weaker and weaker and eventually goes out. That's the process of meditation. That's the process that mindfulness leads to. And that's what we do, and that's what we're cultivating. Can you see how that works? So non-reaction, how do we non-react? By softening into it. Even if that sound, if you suddenly went, relax into that. It takes you in exactly the opposite direction to how you normally relate to that. Yeah? Then what happens is these painful mind states, painful relationships start to dissolve. They get so weak that you basically start to laugh at them in life when they come up. Like a little screaming person going, move, move. And you kind of go, what? Instead, normally it's like, move, 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 isn't it? And you go, oh yes, sir. Ask yourself a question. I just want to finish up this talk with this. Ask yourself one question. When something is pleasant, why do you have to experience it? When something is unpleasant, why do you have to run away from it? If you're in a situation, in society we accept that if it's pleasant or unpleasant, it's a justifiable reason to react to it. So if we're in a situation, you say, oh, I'm feeling really unpleasant, I don't want to be here anymore. You go, oh, okay, come on, let's go. You wouldn't go, what are you talking about? Unpleasant is just a feeling. A feeling can't hurt you. A feeling is not the situation. Why do you have to move? But if you look, every movement you make in life, including eating, we do because we feel unpleasant. Yeah? Or pleasant, or we want a pleasant feeling. But why do we have to react to either? What would your life be if you weren't driven by pleasant feelings and you were no longer running away from unpleasant feelings, and you realise that pleasant and unpleasant cannot hurt you if you do not react to them? What would be left? What is left when a fire goes out? There's no longer any heat, there's no longer any agitation, there's no longer any movement. Just something to ponder. So what we're going to do now, everyone's always got aches and pains. If you haven't, you've probably got some emotional hurt somewhere. Remember, this is a safe environment to do this. Okay? It can't hurt you. Whatever you experience cannot hurt you. It is impossible for an experience to hurt you. This is the reality of it. It can't hurt you. Sensations cannot hurt you. Yeah, emotions can't hurt you. Unpleasant definitely can't hurt you. How can unpleasant hurt you? Think about it. So what I want you to do is we're going to anchor our attention. We're going to relax using the breathing and letting go. And even if you want to start easy, you can maybe look at an itch or just a little ache in your butt sitting on the chair or the floor. And just place your attention in that and see if you can soften into it. And see what it's like to actually not run away from something, but actually go into it. Want to give it a go? Okay. So just close your eyes over lightly. Gently start anchoring your attention in your body. So bring your awareness and be mindful of the sensations in your body. Notice as soon as you anchor your attention there, you become more present. Now start using your breathing to soften into the sensations of your body. Just breathing in, deep into your belly, and gently breathing out, soften into it. Breathing in, and breathing out, soften even more. Now gently turn your attention to a pain or an ache in your body, or an ache in your heart. Feel the unpleasantness around it, the feeling of unpleasantness. And then using your breathing, soften your resistance to that unpleasantness. Soften into it. Now look closely at the sensations or at the emotion, the ache in your heart, and start using your breathing to soften into that. Now be aware of any resistance that's building up in the background. If you feel that happening, then you turn your attention mentally and start to mentally relax that resistance. When you're mentally relaxed, you turn your attention back to the sensations again, or the aching in the heart. Notice how the feeling of unpleasant can't actually hurt you. It's just a feeling. Bring your awareness back into the feeling of your body, sitting on the chair or on the floor. Keep your attention anchored within your body. Widen your awareness to be aware of any sounds around you. Hear them, but don't go out to them. Notice how they flow, they come and go. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Now, when we first do this, this can be quite a confronting practice because we're actually developing a relationship to something that we've spent our whole life trying to get away from. But you actually find it will get very interesting. If you sustain your attention on those sensations, it's actually one of the best conditions for building up really strong concentration. It's amazing. On intensive retreats, when you meditate on pain as an object, it's like a gift. Because what happens is out of the other end of that is really deep concentration and really deep bliss. The pain actually dissolves and becomes bliss. But what you can learn for everyday life in doing this, and you may have experienced that even a little bit just then, is that how painful those sensations were, or how painful those emotions in your heart were, was totally dependent on your relationship to it. Did anyone notice that when they softened, it wasn't as hard to bear? Some of you did? Yeah, it's that softening into. Because with the softening, what you're dealing with is your resistance. And it's a resistance that we don't notice. You're resisting what is. But what is fixed. And what is cannot be any other way than how it is. So if you want change, you don't make change or positive change by resisting what is. You accept, this is my starting point right here, right now. This is my blank canvas. How I change it is by changing the way I'm relating to what is here right now. And in changing that relationship, naturally, it will start to change. Yeah? Through acceptance, through surrender to what is, things will change for the better. Through resistance and fighting what is, right here, right now, regardless of what that is, you will condition more of that in the future. It's at that point of relationship between our mind and unpleasant feeling, our mind and pleasant feeling, that everything arises out of. So basically through meditation practice, through increasing our mindfulness and using the power of that mindfulness and the concentration develops from it, what we're doing is we're actually hitting the point before the human being is created. Sense contact, pleasant, unpleasant feeling, like or dislike. Boom. Suddenly I appear out of that. My emotions, my relationships, my thinking, my story, my life. But at that point there, it's not your story, it's not your life. There's no time, there's no past. There's just this moment, 100% blank canvas. This moment is presented, it's like playing cards. You play with the cards you've been given. You don't complain and say, no, I want a different hand. You can't do that. Whatever you got, that's what you play with. You only have what you have in each moment. If you stuffed up the last moment, it doesn't matter. This moment here is what you have. Yeah? It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You're not a bad person. You're a blank canvas right here, right now. Look at your relationship to right now. First thing, accept this is how it is. Second thing, look for resistance to this. When you soften in, the resistance goes, you then have a positive relationship to what's happening now, and it will start to change. All those painful mind states, anxiety, depression, fear, grief, all the longing in our heart is all coming from resistance to what is. It's wanting something other than what's here. Yeah? As soon as we accept what's here, they no longer arise, and then positive mind states arise. Softening into it is the same as love, caring, kindness, compassion. You look at it. If we look at negative mind states, right, what I'll call negative mind states, and I'll tell you why. Sensual desire, longing for something other than what's here. Longing to experience things, right? And aversion, anger, depression, anxiety, grief, right? All these sort of things are states of mind that drive things apart. They drive people apart, and they make us feel separate from the world. Can you see how they do that? They may cause separateness. They're pushing away whatever is here. Even longing and desire and lust is pushing away what is here right now. Yeah? So we're causing separateness. Now look at this. Unconditional love, compassion, generosity, right? Gratitude, joy for others' success. They bring people closer together. They actually make you feel closer to life. They're the glue that holds life together. They're the glue that holds society together, life together, people together, right? The other states of mind drive everything apart, right? This is why we want to remove them, because without them, you just have the ones that causes glue and your life just flows beautifully, right? So when we understand this, our relationship to this moment right here, right now, will tell us what we're cultivating. If we're resisting, we're cultivating states of mind, thinking patterns that will actually drive everything away from you. It will push life away from you and cause your life to contain pain. No resistance is embracing. John Hale, one of my main meditation teachers, told me to embrace every experience like you would a suffering child. That's every experience. Letting go, softening in, has that feeling of taking the pain and holding it close. Yeah? That's the glue. So that's the states of mind that you want, because that's the one that brings your family closer together, your work life closer together, you closer to yourself, more happy and comfortable within yourself. The other states of mind make you hate yourself, make you hate your family, hate your life, hate everything. Just hate, hate, hate. I want something else other than what's here. Does that make sense? So that's what we're playing with. So look at that point of resistance in your meditation practice as training for your brain, and then in your everyday life to change your life. This is where it's at.